Namaskar everyone, welcome to this new podcast series which is Debugging Developers Dilemma, the 25th hour. Now you might be wondering what is this concept of the 25th hour? It metaphorically means adding, maximizing productivity and efficiency to an extent that it adds one extra hour in your day. And with solutions like Ajna HPSC, Ajna Kriti, it adds that extra 1 hour in your life which saves you time and helps you in your development journey. For this new series, the first episode is Debugging the Improbable. Is zero latency possible? As we all know that latency has been a really long challenge in XR, and that is something that we haven't really overcome yet, and we are still there into solving that challenge. But with the advancements in the XR every day, is it still a barrier or on the brink of are we overcoming it? That is the question for today's episode. And today, to delve deep more into this question, we have a really special guest, Israel. He's an CG artist, game developer. He's also has his own YouTube channel, Pink Pocket TV. We'll link it below so that you can check it out. He also has a deep understanding of the latest XR softwares and tools, and because of that, he's able to create beautifully creative and visually stunning XR experiences that can captivate and keep audience engaged in those XR experiences. So I'll let him introduce himself more.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for that. Um, as I mean, you guys might know that, like, you might have seen my channel, the viewers who are watching, and as you mentioned, I'm a CG artist and I'm also a game developer. So I have been in the industry for like 7 years now, and I've also started my studio. And I like we have clients from like film and games, so we work for like films and like game studios for like VFX, CG, real time VFX and stuff like that. Mostly we work with Unreal Engine 5, and we are also into XR development. So we develop XR experiences using the latest technologies like Unreal Engine 5, and using the Meta Quest app, right? The Spark app, and so we are also into AR and like all that stuff. So a lot
Yeah.
of stuff going on.
Yeah, great. So, first things first, let's set the context and
Yeah.
let's just first understand what exactly is latency and why is it such a crucial factor in XR.
Okay. So latency, as you know, it's like the delay, right? So when you talk about XR, or like when you talk about like any like even a PC app, right? Latency is a huge issue. So latency is like the time between the input and the output, kind of technically, right? So if you like give a certain input, like for like XR, like if you wear a XR headset, and like if you let's say if you like move your hand or something, for example, and some XR devices have hand tracking. So there's a delay there, right? There's a latency there. So that's like an input latency. Again, there are like hardware latencies as well. So you can take into account the frames per second, also the rendering side. That is also one kind of latency, right? So how many frames the processor is, like the processor is calculating, right? The faster the processor, the like lower the latency. So again, latency is a huge deal for XR, because XR mobile devices, especially like the portable XR devices like the Oculus Quest 3, right? The Meta Quest 3, or like even the Vision Pro, or even your devices, right? So like they're mostly portable, and their like latency plays a huge role. Like especially developers have to optimize the app to minimize the latency, and whether that's input latency or like that's like the hardware thing, right? So yeah, I mean that's again, so we like as developers we strive towards like reducing that latency as low as possible. And now we have technologies to do that. So previously, like, it was very tricky, but now as the XR devices are getting really advanced, right, especially the processor speeds and all, so they're getting really advanced, and they're like enabling us to like host different like really realistic experiences, to be honest, like semi realistic experiences on like mobile VR platforms, right? On mobile XR platforms. So these technologies like are enabling us to like create better experiences, right? And minimize the latency as well in them. So that's again a good thing. But there's latency even in like the advanced devices like $4,000 Vision Pro, right? There is like a lot of latency in the hand tracking. It's like some milliseconds, and that is noticeable. So even Apple is like striving to solve it. They have not yet cracked the latency issue, right? In terms of input.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So as we have now understand that even the slightest delay can disrupt the user
Yes.
experience and the presence and the whole immersion of that XR experience. So how has these latency challenges evolved over time in XR?
Okay. So XR is, XR is really old. So when we talk about like the evolution of latency, how the latency got reduced, right? First of all, XR, people think that like mixed reality and virtual reality are like new, right? But no, it's not that case. That's not the case because like we have had developments in this field, like since it's like now what it's like 10 years ago we had, or like 15 years ago, even 15 years ago, if you just check, right, if you do your research, we have had like rudimentary XR and VR devices capable of hosting like rudimentary VR stuff, right? Like seeing a pre-rendered scene in VR, something like that, right? So we have had those devices. So again, those devices were not powerful yet. So in terms of the evolution of latency here, latency has been reduced a lot now, especially when you take a look at the first VR devices, like the first things. First of all, VR experiences were pre-rendered, right? So in that, latency is not an issue. Like if you take a look at YouTube VR, right? YouTube launched their VR service, and you can watch 360-degree videos, right? So in that case, latency is not an issue. I mean, you just have to play that video. You require some hardware to play that video, obviously. I mean, you require the processor and like the graphics power to like render that video, kind of, to draw that video. But there was like zero latency, kind of, right? There was only the screen latency between the screen and the, like, as there's latency between the monitor and your computer, right? So something like that. So there was that latency. As VR devices got advanced, you have like they introduced input, right? New ways of getting input from the user, eye tracking and stuff like that. So it's pretty flawless, I would say now. When you compare it with like 10 years ago, it's pretty flawless. And like technologies like pixel streaming. So if you, I mean, a lot of people are talking about it right now. So pixel streaming is like the new hot thing in XR, especially, that enables you to like stream literally AAA level graphics quality like experiences on your VR headset. So there's like a latency of just the internet speed, right? So if your internet is like very fast, you have zero latency, kind of, if the servers are like close to you, the region where you live. So those things are like I mean, negating the latency thing. So I would say in terms of evolution, it's really reduced. I mean, and it's like it will even be more like reduced, and it's gonna be literally flawless and seamless in like the next 5 years. I would say like the latency issue is gonna be like non-existent, to be honest.
So what are some of the challenges that can hinder our progress and our efforts that we are putting in towards achieving that near zero latency? So what are some of those challenges?
Challenges in terms of developers. I mean, what developers face usually, it's gonna be like, so this is like a universal thing for any platform. I would say optimization is a huge challenge, first of all, for XR. When you talk about XR, like, because the more optimized the experience is, the less latency you're gonna get, right? So that is directly proportional to the latency that you have, right? That you get, first of all. Next challenge that a developer faces is, let's say, some things you can't have control over because they are like, some things a developer can't control because they are integrated in the API. I mean, if you use like Apple's API for Vision Pro, right? So you can't reduce the latency of the hand tracking. The Apple can only reduce that, right? They have added the functionality for that, so the developer can't do anything. So in this case, if you want that feature and if the latency is breaking the experience, I would say developers usually uh, ditch that input method, right? They'll ditch the hand tracking thing. They replace it with a controller. So, or a different device, right? Like a Bluetooth controller or something like that for your like VR headset. So I would say that it depends on the developers, but yeah, optimization is a huge thing in terms of the drawing, the rendering, and right, all of that.
Right. Got it. So as I think we discussed this earlier, how latency can impact the user experience in the XR. So my preceding question to that is, what are the key like factors that can contribute the to what user is experiencing in the XR headset? So what is the contribution to it to user perception of latency?
I mean, users perceive this very. I mean, they are fine with it. So, as far as I got the question, you're talking about like what users perceive, right? In a like the latency issue, right? Whether
Yes.
users care about it or they don't, right? So, they don't actually, to be honest. The user base, like I've seen really bad VR experiences getting to the top charts, right? And they have like a shit ton of issues, but latency is like a big issue there, right? The inputs are a bit glitchy, if like I mean they don't work, and the graphics thing is the FPS drops and stuff like that. So uh, I mean, but still the users don't give a shit because VR as a medium, XR as a medium is so immersive that even if you put a cube, even if you put like a blank environment, right? Or even if you put like a 360-degree image, and if you like give it to a person, and if like the person wears that VR headset, right? They'll be astonished. I mean, if the image is really beautiful, right?
Yeah.
So I would say the medium itself is so interesting and it's so immersive because if you do that, do the same thing like on a computer, right? It's not that immersive, but to view something in like 360 or all around you, it's like very very immersive. So users are fine with the latency thing. They are not I mean, companies don't get backlash over this. Apple didn't, and a lot of different companies don't. They fix it, like they fixed the latency issue like in the Meta Quest. So I have a Quest 2 and they fixed it. So they introduced hand tracking. It was very slow and the latency was a lot. But now with updates and software updates and stuff, they fixed that issue. So, but again, there was no backlash from the community, from the Meta community. There was no backlash from like, um, I mean, the user base, right? So I would say people are fine with that.
Yeah. So what I gauge from you is that people are all fine with the latency issues that they
Yeah.
are facing until now, but there might be some kind of specific industries or applications where we do need that, where we do need to achieve that near zero latency.
Yes. So you are right. Yeah. So this I was talking about like the general user base, right?
Yeah.
The consumer market, right? But when you take a look at uh, different fields like engineering, for example, right? Or automotive design or something like that, there you need near zero latency, right? There you will, I mean, need the minimal latency as you can get. So I mean, because those application, I mean, you have to see everything in real time, and there you don't care much about rendering. So there are different like VR apps and visualization apps. So for example, like we also built one for a company, and so they can view their car parts in like VR, right? And they could like move the car part in 3D with the Oculus control or something like that. So it's like product visualization, right? And the product visualization industry again, they don't care about rendering. They care about like visualizing the CAD models and all of that, right? So in that case again, latency is an issue. You are correct, but you don't need any complex input methods there. I mean, you don't need to implement hand tracking to like that to move the model or something like that. So in that case, we can get away with using rudimentary input methods and thus like reduce the latency thing. But yeah, you are right. In engineering applications and automotive design and in like industry applications mostly, right? They require the app to be flawless and have zero latency.
Yeah. Let's now also shift our focus a bit towards the solutions that we currently have. So, what do you think about the role of the whole cloud streaming solutions in this, in achieving near zero latency, and how can it help stream high fidelity content with minimal possible latency?
Yes, so that's a huge thing. Again, the cloud streaming thing. It's also called pixel streaming. So that I think I mentioned that. So it's like huge, and that is definitely going to reduce the latency for sure. Because in that case, what's happening is the app is not running on your device, right? The app is like rendered and it's running on a different device, and it's like literally screen shared, kind of. You can think of it like that. So as you screen share, right? It's just screen shared. The screen is being projected onto your like all the data is streamed via the internet onto your VR headset. So in that case, the internet has to be really, really strong and fast. And in India, we have like, I mean, good internet providers and good speeds. To be honest, India is like the leading country. I think the country with like the most people people that have access to the most. I mean, like fast internet, something like that. I mean, I read that somewhere. So uh, a lot of people have internet access and fast internet access. I mean, and the speeds are getting really good. The data plans also and the phone plans also are getting really good, right? With 5G and stuff like that. So that is one way. That's one thing that I find really promising. That the cloud streaming thing, and with that, I think you will be able to like reduce that. I mean, solve the latency issue. I mean, there's one thing in latency as well, because like VR headsets, to be honest, have like two screens, right? So traditionally, a computer has one screen. VR headsets have two screens, right?
Mm.
And they like they have a resolution of, I think one screen. I mean, the Oculus has like 4K. So you have one eye with the 4K panel and the next eye with the 4K panel, right? And so you have to technically run the app twice, render the app twice, right? So you have to stream 8K data. Now 8K data is very, very huge. It's huge, right? An 8K video is very huge. So to stream that in real time, that also like 30 frames per second or like 60, right? 60, because VR headsets have like now crazy refresh rate, right? 144 hertz. The higher the refresh rate, the better. And you kind of feel it. I mean, 90 hertz also, you feel it, that it's like a bit stuttery. I mean, you kind of feel it in VR. You don't feel it in like traditional on a computer or on a mobile phone, but you feel it in VR. So I would say that issue, that's a big issue, to compress that data and to stream it. So because with faster internets, it will get better, but the data size has to be reduced in order to reduce the latency as well.
So, what are some of the other, per se, breakthroughs or advancements in XR that can bring us closer to achieving that low latency? And also, that's what our vision is with Ajna HPSC in addressing these latency challenges. So,
Mhm.
what are some of the other advancements in the XR that are happening currently?
Okay, so other advancements in XR. XR is a very evolving field. So, I mean, there are emerging technologies that are coming out, and companies are striving towards like making their VR headsets like near non-zero latency, having I mean, they are striving towards that. And so, I mean, the latest technologies, I would say, is one thing that comes to my mind, and that could help VR a lot. It's now being integrated in VR, but like it's a huge topic and a hot topic right now. So that's Gaussian splats. So Gaussian splats are basically, it's going to change the entire 3D industry, and it's going to change the VR industry as well. So it is basically like a 3D scan, right? So you get like previously you had 3D scans, right? You take a bunch of photos and you convert it into a 3D model. That's photogrammetry, right? So that's like the technology that we had. That technology is still being used in like creating assets for VFX, for film, and for games, right? And for VR as well. So they take that 3D scan and they optimize that 3D scan, reduce the number of polygons, and they put it in your, and you can like put it as a developer. You can integrate that model in your VR app, right? But now with Gaussian splats, that thing is completely changed. You can literally take a video of, like, for example, I'm sitting in my like living room. I can literally take a video of my living room and convert that into a kind of a 3D scan, which will run like 120 frames per second. Like in the browser, I'm saying it runs in a browser. So so that thing is now being integrated in VR as well. So with that, first of all, the latency thing is gone, because that thing is gone. So it fundamentally changes how you are rendering and processing 3D data, right? So I think that will be a huge step to reduce all of this. I mean, the 3D industry is going to change for sure in the next 3 years. I mean, I would say with AI as well. So AI also helps to like reduce. I mean, you are seeing huge advancements in AI, right? So the another thing that comes to my mind in terms of AI that can help like the XR industry is the way the video is like kind of super scaled. So technically, you might have heard about DLSS, right? NVIDIA's DLSS. So that's like a super scaling algorithm. So basically, you render a 480p video and you can scale it to 4K. So technically, you could render a 480p video on a cloud service. You could stream the 480p video, and then on the headset, you can convert it to super scale it to 8K in real time. And DLSS is pretty fast at that. And you have different technologies like that, temporal super resolution as well. So TSR it's called. So these technologies again can help reduce this issue, right, of latency.
Yeah, that's really interesting to know what. Yeah, so and also let's talk about so some of the major stakeholders in XR, which are like hardware manufacturers, software developers, or content creators like you. So, what is the importance between the collaboration of the whole ecosystem? So, these are, I can say, the three pillars of the XR industry, the ecosystem of these three syringes. So, what is the importance of collaboration between these three entities in
It is,
tackling latency?
yeah. So it is huge. First of all, not like in the context of latency, but I mean in a generalistic and in a broader manner, the collaboration is really important between these three pillars of the thing, right, of XR. So you have the first of all the hardware manufacturer, right, and that's kind of like the company, right, and you have content creators like me, and you have the user base. So I think these three are very important. Even if like one of the pillars like goes down, the whole thing goes down kind of. Everything is a collaborative effort, right? So and for hardware manufacturers as well, the user, they release a VR, for example, like a VR company, right, who manufacture a VR headset. They release a headset, and they release it to whom, right? The community, right? So the people, and then the people buy it, they give them the feedback, and then this cycle of like development. So they take that feedback, and they have surveys as well, right? Companies have surveys, and they take a lot of data from the user kind of. So the at least the Meta device, they, I mean, they have a lot of data on us, and they use that data to further refine the experience, their XR experience, or to further refine the device, right? So without the community, that is not possible. Without the user, the device is useless, right, kind of. So that's like the dependency there. And content creators like me are important to like uh, I mean to promote the device kind of, right, to for promotion, for but for reviews as well. So honest reviews. I mean, I see a lot of creators who are like, who don't give honest reviews on YouTube, and they just give the review because the company sponsors them. But if you look at my channel, I mean, all my sponsored videos are, even like all the videos are honest reviews. I mean, I tell them that I I mean, whatever I say in the video, it's like I'll say it honestly. So that is one thing, we need more honest reviews from content creators on whether it's YouTube, Instagram, or like for like good promotion, and to highlight the positives and the negatives of the VR headset. And that's going to help again the hardware manufacturer and the company, the VR company, to better the experience and to better the device, right?
So it's clear that latency is no longer just a dream that we used to think, but now it's a recurring challenge that we are actively trying to overcome. I know we discussed this before, but just to end it, what are some of your predictions, or what you think are some of the future developments or improvements that can make us a bit closer to that dream of zero latency?
Okay, so I think my prediction, it's going to be reduced with with AI and the technologies, the 3D technologies that we are like that are in development, and the Gaussian splats thing also that we mentioned before. So that also uses AI kind of. It's like a trained thing, right? So with AI, it's going to be reduced a lot. The data processing thing in general is going to be reduced a lot. The time. I mean, what took I mean, in a generalistic way, what took for us humans, like what takes an hour, AI does it in what, like a minute, right? Even to write a basic essay or something. So kind of the time is reduced there. So for that also the latency is reduced, right? AI is making things more efficient, and it will have a big impact on the rendering side, on the latency side in XR. So I mean, that's my prediction. In like 3 years or something, the fundamental 3D rendering thing is going to change, and that will have a very huge effect on the XR platforms, right? On how you render things in XR. With Unreal also you have Nanite and Lumen. So Unreal also, I mean, Epic Games, I know them personally, and they are like a great company, like who are always striving towards um bettering their engine and reducing the flaws of their own engine. I mean, um and they also have great XR and VR I mean templates, right? So if you take a look at Unreal, you have real-time global illumination and reflections, and polygon, like you can have millions of polygons on the screen, and in real time 60 frames per second. So that is polygon streaming, and that's available to XR developers as well. So technically you can have photorealistic experiences in VR. All the top experiences that you have right now, like all the top developers, that experience is made in Unreal Engine. 70% of games, right, over like all over, like PC, even XR. So that accounts of XR as well. 70% of games are made in Unreal Engine right now. I think it's 72, but I'll say 70 right now. So that is that. And yeah, so in 3 years, I would say the fundamental thing is going to change how you render the 3D models, how you create content as well, how you draw content on the screen. And I would say the latency thing is going to be an issue of the past. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we wrap up this podcast, I also just would like to highlight. So I came across this news where recently our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, he recently tried VR headset with a lot of top Indian gamers, influencers, which shows us the support of Indian government to the gaming industry and also this XR industry, which promotes this whole local manufacturing and Make in India initiative. So just wanted to know your views on the whole Make in India movement, and finally XR taking the center stage and getting the recognition that it deserves.
Yeah, so that's huge actually. I think I saw that on LinkedIn, and it's funny because I have I'm based in Pune right now, and I have a friend. So he has a studio, and I saw the prime minister playing that game. So it was kind of funny to me, but yeah. So XR thing, it's huge. Make in India again. I mentioned this in the meet that we had that day as well. So Make in India movement is really good, and the funding, especially the funding aspect. So government has different things, and the government is pushing the XR initiative a lot. I saw the prime minister also try the VR headset, right?
Yep.
And that might be a really life changing experience for people, because older people have never experienced something like that, right? So that is really huge. I remember a friend of mine, he had never experienced VR, and I just like I mean, I gave my Oculus Quest 2 to him, and I put a YouTube 360 degree VR video of a space experience, right? And I mean, the guy literally had tears rolling down his face. So it is crazy. I mean, the medium itself, and it's huge. I see a lot of uh, use cases as well. I mean, it's being used for psychological purposes as well, for treating like different psychological disorders and some for calming meditative experiences as well. So
Yeah.
XR as a platform is huge, and in India especially, we need that. We need people to we need to give people the exposure to this XR, because it is, let's be honest, it's kind of niche right now as well, right?
Yeah.
It's like a luxury thing, because it is not that what people can afford, like normal people can afford. And the Make in India movement is like completely changing that. So now, like, the normal people are, I mean, it's like sponsoring or like funding uh, different companies that are making products like totally in India, right? Only the chip is, I think, made outside, because India doesn't have that chip manufacturing silicon
Yeah.
plant, right? But
Right.
apart from that, the whole your headset also, I think, is totally made in India. So that is,
Yes.
I think, huge. That is huge, because and the design also of your headset is pretty impressive, I would say. I mean, the design of the headset itself, it's really cool. It looks really modern, and it looks very futuristic as well. So that is very cool. But yeah, this is huge, the Make in India and other. I mean, you have a lot of different programs, I think, for gaming and for XR, right? Specialized funding programs as well for startups. I mean, I see a lot of startups emerging in XR, lot of
Yeah.
startups due to this. And they get funding and they are making like cool things. I have a friend who like had a booth at GDC, at the India Pavilion, and they also have like a VR kind of. I mean, they used VR for their game promotion. So it was not a trailer, but a VR experience of like 50 seconds, 30 to 50 seconds, and it was like they gave it to people, and it told you about the game, like a immersive kind of promotional thing, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I see a lot of developers from India like going abroad to these like top notch, I would say, I mean, top conferences, right? And like San Francisco, and like representing our country. So I think this is all made possible due to the initiatives of the government. And yeah, those were my
Yeah.
thoughts.
All right. So I would again like to express my gratitude towards you for joining us here and sharing your experience and insights and perspective on this topic. So thank you.
No worries. Glad talking to you.
Namaskaram.